There is a reason why certain people are attacked, sabotaged, or ridiculed without ever having done anything wrong. They do not threaten with words. They threaten with presence. Even before they speak, something about them signals independence, self-control, lack of need. And the herd senses this as danger. The social world does not fear the loud tyrant. It fears the individual who does not need to ask permission, does not seek approval, and does not explain himself. Because he breaks the silent pact of mediocrity, he exposes, simply by existing, how much others live on their knees, to invisible rules, inherited fears, and the desperate need to belong. That is why the reaction is always the same: moralize, pathologize, reduce. They call arrogance what is autonomy, coldness what is inner mastery, selfishness what is psychological sovereignty. This is not a moral debate. It is threat containment. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this with surgical clarity. The herd does not hate brute force. It hates what it cannot domesticate. The superior individual does not need to attack. His mere refusal to bow already reorganizes the hierarchy, and that generates panic. This is not about being better. It is about being illegible, non-reactive, non-dependent. There is a silent law here, an ancient mechanism that decides who leads and who hunts in packs. When you understand this law, the terror changes sides. And after that, you are never treated the same way again. Know this: they do not hate you. They fear you. Observe the scene. You earned the promotion. You worked nights, weekends, sacrificed comfort, while others watched series. The day after the notification, the same co-workers who smiled over coffee changed their tone. You've changed. You're obsessed. You've lost your balance. Or you finally lose weight. You disciplined your diet, woke up early to train, transformed your body in 6 months. Now the friends who eat pizza every Friday comment with feigned concern. Are you sick? That's not healthy. Careful with the obsession. Or you build wealth. You invested intelligently, took calculated risks, multiplied capital while the group spent their paycheck on temporary status. When the results appear, the accusations arise. You only think about money. You're becoming greedy. You forgot where you came from. You interpret this as a moral failure on your part. You think you really went too far, that you need to pull back, that you should make yourself smaller to restore group harmony. You apologize for existing above average. You negotiate your potential on the altar of social acceptance. This is the fatal mistake. Because the hostility you face has nothing to do with morality. It is primitive terror disguised as ethics. Friedrich Nietzsche, the most dangerous philosopher in Western history, decoded this psychological war centuries ago. He realized that morality is not an objective system of right and wrong. It is a weapon developed by the weak to neutralize the strong. It is the battle cry of the herd against the lone wolf. It is the guillotine the mediocre used to decapitate the exceptional. And you, by standing out in any dimension of existence, have become the #1 enemy of everyone who chose mediocrity as a way of life. Today, we are going to dissect Nietzsche's law of psychological power. We are going to reveal why your excellence is interpreted as a personal attack by the herd. We are going to show how primitive biology transforms superiority into a mortal threat. We are going to expose the exact mechanics of moralization that convert discipline into obsession, ambition into greed, independence into selfishness. And we are going to teach you the only strategic response that works. It is not convincing the herd that you are not a threat. It is radically accepting that you are the threat, and that their terror is the compass confirming that your trajectory is absolutely correct. But be warned, this is not content to share at the dinner table. It is not motivational philosophy to post on social media. It is recognition that there is an irreconcilable divide between those who will negotiate potential for belonging and those rare individuals who will internalize a brutal existential truth. That kindness, humility, and equality were sold as supreme virtues precisely to keep the superior individual chained to the level of the group. if you are not ready to embrace isolation as the inevitable price of greatness, close this now. If you are ready to understand why Nietzsche died mad and alone, yet left a philosophy that terrified the world for centuries, let's begin. Understand this. The group's visceral reaction to your ascent is not conscious. It is biological. When you stand out, you are performing involuntary surgery on the collective psyche, exposing the wound everyone pretended did not exist. Let this settle. Each member of the herd lives with a fundamental self-deception about their own capacities. They believe they are intelligent, disciplined, capable, but that life simply has not given them the opportunity yet. They believe they would train if they had time, that they would build wealth if circumstances were different, that they would think independently if society allowed it. They live in this comfortable fantasy of unrealized potential, where failure is not their responsibility, but the fault of an unjust world. Then you appear. The same 24 hours in a day. The same basic limitations of the human condition. You train at 5 in the morning while they sleep. You invest while they spend. You read while they scroll. And suddenly the excuse collapses. The living evidence that the problem was never time, money, or opportunity is standing right in front of them, breathing, existing, thriving. You are not just in shape. You are implicitly judging their flabby bodies. You are not just rich. You are exposing their financial laziness. You are not just thinking. You are revealing the pathetic mimicry with which they repeat third-party opinions. Their amygdala detects this as a threat to survival. Not metaphorically, literally. The primitive brain does not distinguish between a lion attacking and evidence of personal inferiority. Both activate the same neural alarm system. Cortisol spikes. The sympathetic nervous system takes over. Fight or flight. And since they cannot physically fight your excellence, they moralize. They transform superiority into an ethical crime. This is the first layer of the Nietzschean law. The biology of the existential threat that the superior individual represents to the psychological stability of the herd. Do you see it? You think you are being attacked for your choices. You are being attacked because your choices worked. If you trained and stayed fat, no one would say anything. If you worked hard and failed, they would welcome you back with pats on the back. At least you tried. But you succeeded. And individual success is terrorism against the collective narrative that everyone is a victim of circumstance. You broke the invisible social contract that demands mediocrity as the toll for belonging. This requires you to kill an illusion you have carried since childhood. The belief that if you are good and competent enough, you will be loved and respected. You will not. You will be feared. And fear does not generate hugs. It generates knives in the back. Now, the second layer, the mechanics of moralization. Unable to compete on the plane of excellence, the herd changes the battlefield. If you are superior in discipline, they will not try to become more disciplined. They will redefine discipline as unhealthy obsession. If you are superior in ambition, they will not become more ambitious. They will redefine ambition as vile greed. If you are superior in intellectual independence, they will not think more deeply. They will redefine critical thinking as elitist arrogance. Think about the last time someone criticized your dedication to work. They did not say, "I envy your work ethic." They said, "You need to relax, you're killing yourself. That's no way to live." Observe the rhetorical structure. They framed effort as self-destruction and laziness as wisdom. They completely inverted the hierarchy of values. Nietzsche called this transvaluation, the process by which the weak redefine virtues, so that their weaknesses become noble and the strengths of the strong become vices. Look at the person who criticizes your fit body. They do not say, "I admire your dietary discipline." They say, "Wow, you don't eat anything anymore. You're getting extreme. A little dessert won't kill anyone." Do you see the subtlety? They turned self-control into extremism and indulgence into healthy moderation. They moralized their own weakness and demonized your strength. Now, observe the person who criticizes your wealth. They do not say, "I wish I had your financial intelligence." They say, "Money isn't everything. There are more important things in life. You're missing what really matters." Again, a complete inversion. Financial incompetence became spiritual wisdom. Financial competence became materialistic blindness. This is the herd's supreme psychological weapon. They do not fight you with superiority. They fight you with guilt. They make you feel bad for being good. They make you question whether it is really worth it. They make you negotiate greatness for acceptance. And most people negotiate. Most people retreat. Most people sacrifice potential to restore tribal warmth. Because the pain of isolation is biologically more unbearable than the frustration of living below one's own capacity. You need to understand this with surgical clarity. Kindness is not an objective virtue. It is a survival strategy of the weak. Humility is not wisdom. It is the disguise of mediocrity. Equality is not justice. It is a fantasy that allows the incompetent to demand respect they did not earn. Nietzsche saw this. He observed that Christianity was the greatest psychological revolution in Western history, precisely because it inverted the power equation of classical civilization. Greeks and Romans admired strength, courage, excellence, conquest. Christianity said, "The last shall be first. The weak are blessed. The humble shall inherit the earth. Those who suffer are noble. The powerful are suspect." This was not a historical accident. It was a psychological coup d'etat. It was the revenge of the incapable mass against the competent elite. And it worked so well that 2,000 years later, you still carry this programming. You still feel guilt when you stand out. You still apologize for winning. You still downplay achievements so others don't feel bad. You internalized slave morality and are using it to keep yourself chained. The third layer is the phenomenon of gravitational leveling. Every average social structure operates like a black hole that pulls everyone toward the statistical center. Imagine a normal distribution curve. The mass concentrates in the middle. Extremes are rare. Deviating from the mean activates social correction mechanisms. If you are far below, there is pity and assistance to pull you back. If you are far above, there is envy and sabotage to pull you back. The implicit goal of every community built on mediocrity is to keep everyone at the same level. Because explicit hierarchies of competence are uncomfortable. Revealing that some people are objectively superior to others destroys the egalitarian illusion that maintains social peace. So when you rise, gravity increases. The higher you go, the stronger the force trying to pull you back down. This shows up in 1,000 daily microaggressions. The co-worker who stops inviting you to lunch. The friend who stops replying to messages. The family member who jokes about your new diet. The group that laughs at your ambition. Each interaction is a stone tied to your ankle, trying to drown you back to the median level where everyone feels comfortable. Watch this in action. You walk into the meeting room after months of training. You've lost 30 pounds. You're in shape for the first time in years. Someone comments, "Wow, you lost weight. Are you sick?" Do you feel the poison embedded in that? It's not a compliment. It's an attempt to turn achievement into a symptom of illness. Or you arrive at the barbecue with the new car you bought after years of saving and investing. Someone says, "That must have cost a fortune. I'd never spend that much on a car." I prefer experiences. Again, moral poison. They turned your financial discipline into materialistic shallowness and their own financial irresponsibility into spiritual depth. These are not neutral interactions. They are attempts at social correction. They are the herd saying, "Get back in your place. Don't make us feel bad about ourselves. Be mediocre with us." And the pressure is immense because humans are tribal animals. We were evolutionarily selected to value belonging above almost everything. Exile from the tribe meant certain death on the African savanna. So the limbic brain screams when it detects social rejection. The pain of ostracism activates the same neural regions as physical pain. Being excluded hurts, literally. The fourth layer is the invisible social contract you signed without knowing it. Belonging to the average group has a price. You must pretend everyone is equal when hierarchy is obvious. You must celebrate others' mediocrity as if it were excellence. You must minimize your victories so as not to humiliate others' defeats. You must agree that luck, privilege, and circumstance explain all success, never merit or effort. You must validate the narrative of collective victimhood where no one is responsible for anything. This contract is rarely verbalized. It is transmitted through subtle punishments and rewards. When you conform, you receive smiles, invitations, inclusion. When you deviate, you receive coldness, exclusion, moralized criticism. Most people learn quickly to conform. They learn to hide ambition, disguise excellence, pretend they struggle as much as everyone else. They learn to perform difficulty even when the work is easy. They learn to perform humility even when they feel legitimate pride. You've done this. When you achieved something significant but minimized it in public, "Oh, I got lucky. Oh, it was timing. Oh, it was no big deal." Why did you lie? Because you knew that telling the truth, "I worked like an animal, sacrificed comfort, executed with precision," would be interpreted as arrogance. So you performed false modesty to maintain social acceptance. You violated your own reality to soothe others' insecurity. Nietzsche despised this. He called it existential bad faith. You betray yourself to belong to the herd, and the herd does not respect you for it. They simply confirm that you are safe, that you are not a threat, that you can be kept in the pen without risk of escape. You bought temporary peace at the cost of permanent self-betrayal. The fifth layer is the total transmutation of values that Christianity operated on the Western psyche. Nietzsche devoted entire books to this. He observed that in ancient Rome, words like good and noble were synonymous with strong, courageous, powerful. A good man was the victorious warrior, the competent leader, the successful conqueror. The word bad was synonymous with weak, cowardly, slave. The hierarchy was clear. Superiors were admired, inferiors were despised. Then Christianity arrived, and with it, complete inversion. Now the weak are blessed. Those who suffer are saints. The humble are exalted. The powerful are cursed. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Do you see it? Wealth, which had been a sign of competence and divine favor in ancient Jewish tradition, became an obstacle to salvation. Poverty, which had been a mark of failure, became spiritual virtue. Nietzsche called this the slave revolt in morality. He argued that the weak, incapable of winning on the real battlefield, created an alternative moral battlefield where their weaknesses became victories. We are not conquerors because we are meek, and that is noble. We are not rich because we despise materialism, and that is wise. We do not think independently because we have faith, and that is virtuous. Every incapacity was reframed as a superior ethical choice, and this infected all of Western culture. Even modern atheists who have never set foot in a church carry this programming. The belief that strength is suspect, the belief that ambition is a vice, the belief that superiority is arrogance, the belief that equality is the supreme moral ideal. You drink this poisoned water every day. It's in movies, books, education, politics. Be humble. Don't think you're better. We're all equal. Lies. Lies designed to keep the strong domesticated. Observe how this operates in you. When you achieve success, the first impulse is to attribute it to external factors. I got lucky. I had help. I was in the right place at the right time. Rarely, I am exceptional and I deserve this. Why? Because we were trained to see self-assertion of superiority as a moral sin. The herd taught us that pride comes before the fall, that arrogance is destructive, that thinking yourself superior leads to isolation and ruin. So you internalize false modesty. You perform inferiority you do not feel. You lie about your own greatness. This is not virtue. It is voluntary slavery. It is you putting chains on your own ambition so you don't scare the herd. And Nietzsche saw it clearly. Christianity was the greatest psychological victory of the weak precisely because it convinced the strong that their strength was shameful. The sixth layer is the response strategy. Most people make a fatal mistake when they face hostility from the herd. They try to defend themselves. They try to prove they are not a threat. I haven't changed, guys. I'm the same as always. I'm not obsessed. I'm just taking care of my health. I'm not materialistic. I just manage my money well. Every justification is submission. Every explanation is an admission of guilt. You entered their frame. You accepted that you need to justify yourself. You accepted that they have authority to judge you. Stop. Look at what is happening.
They are afraid because you proved their excuses are lies. They are moralizing because they cannot compete on the plane of competence. They are attacking because you represent everything they could have been, but chose not to be. The hostility is not about you. It is about them. It is projection of their own inner failure. The only functional response is radical acceptance of separation. You must internalize that you no longer belong to the herd. You left. You evolved beyond it.
And there is no going back. Trying to go back is psychological suicide. It is amputating parts of yourself to fit into a space that has become too small. You no longer fit there, and that is right. Nietzsche had a brutal line for this. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you renew yourself without first becoming ashes? To ascend, you must kill the version of yourself that needs the herd's approval. You must burn the need for belonging. You must accept that loneliness is the inevitable price of greatness, not temporarily, permanently. This does not mean being cruel to the herd. It means being indifferent. They will criticize. Let them. They will moralize. Let them. They will try to pull you back. Let them try. You keep rising. You keep building. You keep becoming who you are meant to be. And you interpret every attack as confirmation that you are on the right path. Because if you were not disturbing anything, you would not be attacked. Remember this. Sheep do not attack lions. They only run. When the herd attacks you, it is because you are no longer a sheep. You are a predator in their eyes. And that is a compliment, not an insult. Accept the role. Use their fear as fuel. Every moral criticism is a medal of honor. Every attempt at leveling is a certificate of superiority. The higher you climb, the more violent the resistance. That is physical law. The more you stand out, the more noise the herd makes. That is social law. The seventh layer is necessary isolation. Friedrich Nietzsche lived this law in his own flesh. He spent the last lucid years of his life alone, misunderstood, ridiculed by the German Academy that should have celebrated him. He died insane. He spent a decade in a vegetative state before physical death. His books sold dozens of copies. No one took him seriously. He was a joke. And then, decades after his death, the world woke up. Philosophers, psychologists, writers realized that this solitary man had decoded the psychology of power with a precision no other thinker had reached. His ideas shaped the 20th century. They influenced Freud, Jung, Foucault, Camus. They inspired both nihilists and existentialists. They terrified totalitarian regimes that tried to ban him. He won. He did not win in life. He won in eternity. You need to make peace with this possibility. Maybe you will not be celebrated while you live. Maybe the people closest to you will never understand. Maybe you will die without receiving the recognition you deserve. And maybe that is irrelevant, because the question is not, does the herd approve of me? The question is, did I live according to my maximum potential, or did I negotiate greatness for social comfort? Nietzsche had a line for this too. The individual has always had to struggle to avoid being swallowed by the tribe. If you try, you will often be lonely and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of belonging to yourself. Read that again. No price is too high to pay for the privilege of belonging to yourself. Loneliness is the price. Criticism is the price. Misunderstanding is the price. Social exile is the price. But the alternative is self-betrayal. And that betrayal is death while alive. It is existing as a shadow of what you could have been. It is reaching 70 years old and realizing you lived someone else's life because you were afraid to live your own. You have a choice now. You can stop. You can retreat. You can negotiate excellence for belonging. You can perform mediocrity to restore tribal warmth. You can apologize for disturbing others. You can dim your light so as not to outshine. And you will live a comfortable life, surrounded by people who accept you, validate you, include you. But you will know. You will know you betrayed yourself. You will know you could have been more. You will know you chose the warmth of the herd over the fire of your own soul. Or you can accept the law. You can internalize that the herd's terror is not a sign of error, but of correctness. You can use others' moralization as a compass, confirming the right direction. You can turn every attack into fuel. You can embrace isolation as a necessary price. You can stop asking permission to exist fully. You can become who you truly are, not who the herd needs you to be. This choice is not made once. It is daily. Every morning you wake up and decide, do I keep climbing or do I return to the median level? The pressure never stops. The temptation to retreat never disappears. The herd never stops pulling. This is the war, and there is no truce. But understand this, you are not alone in this war. Nietzsche was there. Every great philosopher, artist, inventor, entrepreneur, athlete who transcended mediocrity was there. They faced the same terror from the herd. They heard the same moralized criticisms. They felt the same cutting loneliness. And they chose to continue. Not because they were immune to the pain of isolation, but because they understood that the greater pain would be betraying their own potential. You can join them. You do not need to be a genius. You do not need to be exceptional on a historical scale. You only need to refuse to negotiate your particular excellence for the acceptance of average people. You only need to decide that belonging to yourself is worth more than belonging to the herd. You only need to accept that when you stand out, you scare people. And that is right. That is how it should be. That is confirmation that you are alive, growing, evolving, becoming. Breathe. Let this settle. Look at your life now. Look at where you retreated. Look at where you negotiated. Look at where you performed mediocrity to maintain peace. Look at where you betrayed yourself. There is no judgment here, only recognition. You did what social survival demanded, but now you know. You see the mechanism. You understand the war. The next time they attack your discipline, you will not defend yourself. You will smile internally, recognizing the pattern. The next time they moralize your ambition, you will not retreat. You will accelerate. The next time they try to pull you back to the median level, you will not negotiate. You will climb faster, because now you understand that their terror is the thermometer of your ascent. The higher the terror, the higher you are. A final and irreconcilable division is happening now. Between those who watch this and will return to the comfortable sleep of the herd, validating their own mediocrity with more moral rationalizations. And those rare ones who will internalize the Nietzschean law as an existential truth, who will accept loneliness as destiny, who will turn the herd's hostility into fuel, who will stop apologizing for existing above average, who will belong to themselves, not the tribe. The test is simple. Observe your emotional reaction to the next moral attack. If the impulse is to justify yourself, explain yourself, diminish yourself, you are still trapped. If the impulse is to smile internally and keep climbing, you woke up. You see the game. You stepped out of the matrix of mediocrity. You became inassimilable by the herd, and that is victory, not defeat. That is liberation, not exile. Most will not get here. Most will prefer the comfort of consensus to the loneliness of excellence. They will prefer average validation to radical authenticity. They will prefer being loved for being common to being feared for being superior. And that is fine too. The herd needs sheep. Hierarchy is real. Some were born to follow. Others were born to lead. Some were born to belong. Others were born to transcend. But you are still here. You made it to the end. You did not turn away when the truth became uncomfortable. You did not retreat when the mirror reflected parts you would rather not see. That means something. Not about me. About you. You are hungry. You have fire. You have unrealized potential burning inside you. And it is asking to be freed. It is begging you to stop negotiating. It is screaming for you to accept that you are different, that you no longer belong down there, that it is time to climb without asking permission. This knowledge is not for sharing at family dinners. It is not for posting with motivational hashtags. It is not for debating with average friends. It is private recognition. It is a silent contract you make with yourself. It is an internal decision no one else needs to know about. You simply start moving differently, speaking less, executing more, smiling when they try to pull you back, accelerating when they try to slow you down, using their terror as evidence that you are on the right path. Nietzsche died alone, but he won. Not in the consensus of the herd, but in history. Not in immediate social acceptance, but in lasting influence. He belonged to himself, and that was worth everything. Every isolation, every criticism, every misunderstanding, every loneliness. Because he knew what you now know, that being swallowed by the tribe is death, and that no price is too high to belong to yourself. The war between you and the herd begins now. Either you become inevitable, inassimilable, untouchable, or you negotiate. There is no middle ground. There is no half belonging to the herd and half to yourself. You are either sheep or wolf, and wolves do not apologize for hunting. Welcome to the war. You will never be alone, because you know others like you exist. Silent, climbing, using the herd's terror as fuel. You will not find them at parties. You will recognize them by the look, by the strategic silence, by the refusal to perform false modesty. And in that mutual recognition, you will have everything you need. The herd will keep trying. Let them. You know something they never will, that their fear is your compass, that their moralization is your thermometer, that the higher you climb, the more violent the resistance, and that this is physics. It is law. It is proof that you are alive. I'll see you at the top.